Good morning, Richard Calhoun, Creekside Realty, here to discuss Silicon Valley real estate market graphs, week number 40. We'll come to these URLs in a minute. What we're going to be talking about is Bay Area data, which I define as 4 counties: Santa Clara, Alameda, Contra Costa, and San Mateo. That represents about 3/4 of the 9 Bay Area counties. We're going to focus on single-family homes. We're going to be using a 5-week moving period, and our reference years are 2014 through 2021. This is looking at DUI. DUI is the single most important indicator. DUI here is going to be for Santa Clara County, even though it's just DUI. SAL is single family homes Alameda County, single family homes Contra Costa County, single family homes San Mateo County. You can see they follow fairly closely together based on a lot of experience. Have defined anything less than 40 days of unsold inventory to be a red hot seller's marketplace, anything above 80 to be a ice cold buyer's marketplace. In between is balanced, even though my shading goes from white balanced to red in a solid line. It's a graduated thing. Now, the balanced market is probably, somewhere like 55 to 65, set 50 to 70 in that range. As you come down, it gets hotter and hotter and more of a seller's marketplace. You can see the dramatic slowdown that we've had experienced this year. It started back at the beginning of April. It slowed down. We were basically in the center of a balanced marketplace. Then we improved, but in the last couple of weeks, everything has gone up. Last week I would have said it looks like we're sort of at a plateau, but this week we've gone up fairly sharply across the board. That's only going back to 2019. Here's the exact same data, but in this case, we're going back to 2014. Now we've moved on to the magnitude of overbidding. The magnitude of overbidding is how much the buyers are willing to bid above the seller's asking price. And you can see that we got to record high levels with Alameda County on the top, followed by Santa Clara County in the blue, then San Mateo County, and Contra Costa County was lagging behind, which was a little surprising, being a more affordable area. You would have thought with COVID that would have done well like Alameda County, but it clearly did not. You can see the rapid decline. Alameda County went for sellers on average getting 119.25% of their asking price, and all 4 counties right now are right at 100%. I've put the bold line on there. I've added it so you can find the axis more rapidly. It's going to typically, in this case, be 100%. Some of my deltas, it's going to be 0. It's just a flag. I'm trying to make the graphs more visually. Define anything above 101.5% of the asking price to be a red hot seller's marketplace, anything below 99% to be an ice cold buyer's marketplace. There's a strong tendency to be at 100%, as you can see back here. When we had fairly aggressive marketplaces, we were still very close to 100%. And in a slow marketplace, it's very difficult to get below about 97.5%. Here's the magnitude just going back to 2014. Now we're looking at the overbidding. The green circles the week that we're talking about. The blue and red arrows, when they're both there, shows it's a sort of a plateaued marketplace. Red up arrow is an improving marketplace. Blue arrow is declining. And it's just basically 22 weeks of data over the past 5 weeks of worth of data each of those 22 weeks. Here is the sold price. So you can see sold prices in all 4 counties peaked sometime probably in mid-May, which lags behind the shift in the marketplace because of the length of close of escrow. You can see some of the peaks were earlier and some were a little bit later. This is going back to 19. This is every quarter's data is vertical. And here I've added in those horizontal lines. And the goal here is so you can come back and roughly see where each county is on their appreciation. In San Mateo County, they actually reached the price that we're at now for the very first time at the peak of the market in 2019. They reached it again in 2020. They surpassed it in 2020. They came down. All of 2021 was above it. All of 2022 was above it, but we're back down to where we were basically for San Mateo County sometime in the 2020 timeframe. The other counties are much more recent, like Santa Clara County, you're basically April of 2021. Alameda County is April of 2021, and Contra Costa is April of 2021. San Mateo County is clearly doing not as well. They didn't appreciate as much as the other 3 counties did with COVID. You can see how close together Santa Clara and San Mateo County are here compared to how far apart they were back here. So there's been some price compression between San Mateo and Santa Clara County. Here is just a table of the raw data for people that like it. On the left-hand side is single-family homes, each of the 4 counties, as well as the combined. On the right-hand side is condos and townhouses. Same concept, each of the 4 counties, and then everything combined at the end. Some of the takeaways is you have the number of new listings coming on the marketplace in the past week. The number of total active listings has been fairly constant. Offers accepted were dropped down of only 441 offers accepted this past week. If you multiply that by 5, that's only about 2,000 transactions. I guess it's closer to 2,200. That number has been over 4,000, which down fairly dramatically. Offers accepted the past week, 2,700, down from 2,900 the week before. And then you have closed data for the 5 weeks down here. You can see appreciation now. And for single family homes, 21% appreciation over 2020 pricing for the entire calendar year is pretty good for 2 years. But as we'll see in a little bit, we were up in the 40s and 50s. Now that we're back down to 21%, that's pretty depressing and a little bit or not so hot. So 21% is not as good as it was when you're talking about a 30% drop of appreciation in less than half a year. This is what the median price was back in the entire 2020 calendar year for each of the different components. I'll be ready for questions in a couple minutes. I'm going to want to hit the recap. tinyurl.com/SVREMG is what I call my root URL. That takes you to the YouTube archive. If you add in the year 2022, you get to the live presentation Saturday morning. If you add in the letter H for handout 2022, then today would be 10 for October, 08 for the 8th, and you would get the handout. The handout is not posted. I try to get it up about 15 minutes before the hour. That did not happen today. I'll get it up later today. I'll try to get the archive posted later this evening as well. If you want to get to a specific episode, you add in the 8-digit year, month, day code. So 2022 1008. And with that, I'm open for questions. Not seeing anyone unmuting themselves, I'll proceed. Now what I'm doing is breaking down a little bit more details. That first part was reintroducing the summary so people could get a quick recap. Here we're looking at DUI for the 4 counties. DUI is what I'm discussing now, so it's bold and it's bigger, it's a wider font, and you'll see that it disappears a little bit. So here, anything below 40 is considered to be a red hot seller's marketplace. You can see we were down here at record low levels of around 15, 17 days of unsold inventory. Then we shot up to some number around 55, 57 days for the entire 4 county areas. Then we improved fairly significantly, but now we've been degrading again. We've been slowing down. We're still in a balanced marketplace, and I'm taking away a little bit of thunder. We'll see later on the volume of transactions is probably the biggest issue versus the speed of the transactions. Now you'll notice that DUI is disappeared. The color coding has disappeared because we're now talking about the number of offers. So you can see here the number of offers are read off on the right-hand side. That was probably about 4,900 offers in a 5-week period of time. We're now down to somewhere around 2,750 maybe. It's hard to, this is 600 and it's less than 3, so it's more than 2,700, so about 2,750. So this is simply the number of offers that were accepted. We're up quite a bit from the end of the year holidays. Here's your COVID slowdown at a time that you normally don't have it, and you can see the normal huge annual cycle, which is why I try to use references. And you can see that we were on the way up, and normally we continue to go up, and then we do a plateau, sort of sliding down before we get to the end of the year holidays. Here, we really went on a dramatic decrease starting, as you can see, in the beginning part of April. Depending on what data point you use, it could be as early as the 5 weeks before the end of March. So that would be basically the last week in February, or it could be as late as about April the 9th, depending on what metrics you want to use for determining the market turnaround. Number of offers is a key indicator, but it's not everything. Now moving on to talk to the third and final line, the bold, the thick gray line, which is simply the number of active listings. The reason this is third, even though it's the ratio between offers and active listings to give you the DUI, which is the most important, active listings tend to stay roughly the same. They don't change as much as the number of new offers, but you can see we've clearly had an increase, but now we're basically at the same level we were back in 2019. You can also see the shortage of listings that we had in 2020 and 2021. And here's all three back, so you can see how they interact with each other. Again, DUI, the blue line, is the most important line. The other two lines, the active listings and the number of offers, you read off the right-hand axis. And this goes back to 2019. Here's the same data going back to 2014. And on that previous slide, you can see that I did annual vertical lines, annual major grid lines, and on the data that goes back to 2019, they're quarterly deadlines. Now what we're doing is we're looking again at DUI, but now we're trying to compare it to what DUI has been. And I'm using the 10 percentile, 50 percentile, and 90 percentile of my reference years. So the red line is the 10 percentile. That corresponds to the hottest the market has been during those years. The blue corresponds to the slowest that's been during those years. 2014 through 2021 is 8 years. So 8 years, 10% and 90% are roughly the second best and second worst years. Then the purple line is the actual data. So you can see that 2021 outperformed and was probably the best year we had. Then you can see that when we got into 2022, we were having the best year, but fairly rapidly right here. And you can see the change happened right on the vertical line. So April the 1st, it started to increase, very quickly got up to the hottest market, second hottest market we've had, very quickly got to the median, quickly got to the worst marketplace we had. And by July the 1st was the slowest year we had. And then it peaked out being the slowest right around July the 4th, a little plateau for a week, and then it dramatically improved through about Labor Day. And then since Labor Day, we've been going back up again. We went from basically the median just last week, or maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and now we're up at equal to the second to worst year we've had. So changing quite a bit. Here it's going back to 14, and you can see the annual spicings. Now here, when I only have a small bar of color, that this is cooling, but there's no, it's not 40 days and 80 days because you're subtracting it off of the delta. So what I'm taking is the actual DUI for this particular data point, and I'm subtracting off the median DUI for that same week for the 8-year period of time, 2014 through 2021. Here, where you had the delta DUI was positive 30 days, or very close to 30, probably closer to 28 days. It was a very cool marketplace compared to those 8 years. And why was that? Well, this was shelter in place COVID. If this is April the 1st, the DUI would have started getting impacted right here on March 17th, I believe it was, and then slowed down dramatically until we could show properties again, and it rapidly improved and was below where we were when we went into shelter in place. And the red bar down across the bottom means anytime you're below the zero here is exactly equal to your median, and you can see that I bolded the axis for you so you can see it a little bit. These are significantly hotter. And when you're looking at a range of 40 to 80 being a balanced marketplace, being 20 days below your median, realizing that 14 through 21 were hot years, you were in a superheated marketplace. And then you can see the slowdown. We got up to the point where we were about 15 days slower than the median days. Then we got back up to the median, and you can see it was just these last 2 weeks where, again, we're slowing down quite a bit compared to the annual. What this does is it allows you to compare what DUI is normally doing, because DUI normally fluctuates quite a bit. But here, if you're having a normal year, you're right on the black line. If you're below the black line, you're having a hotter than normal year. When you're above, you're having a cooler than normal year. You can see for several weeks here, we had basically the typical median year as far as the speed of the marketplace, but now we're slowing down again. This is the same information, just going back to 14. Here's DUI for each county, since it's so important. We saw this slide in the summary. So here you have the quarterly vertical lines. You're only going back to 2019. You have all 4 counties, and you can see the turnaround here at the end. Here's the same data going back to 14 with annual vertical lines. Here's the number of offers that were accepted, and it's the same concept. The black line is the median number of offers accepted. More offers is a hot marketplace, so this is the 90 percentile of the number of offers accepted, and the blue line is fewer offers. It's the slower marketplace. And you can see that in 2021, we were above once we got going, because if we go back to shelter in place, here's the huge impact on the number of offers accepted from COVID. We came out, and by July, we were basically back and having the hottest year. By September, we were above the hottest year, and we stayed above the hottest year until we got to like November, and then November, December, and even the first part of 2022 was equal to the second best year. And then boom, we hit April the 1st, and instead of continuing to climb like the median does, the 90 percentile does, and even the cooler marketplace, it rolled over and slowed down dramatically, came down below the second worst year we've ever had. Here's the improvement I'm talking about from July the 4th to Labor Day, and then boom, it's coming back down again. Here's the same data set going back through 14. This is the percentage of number of offers. I'm not sure this is particularly relevant, but it's showing what percent each county is of the marketplace of the 4 counties. So you can see Contra Costa County doesn't apparently slow down for the end of the year holidays, so it becomes a higher percentage of the marketplace. Very apparent in 2020, also very apparent in 2022, which is the beginning part. And if I call it the end of the year, I guess I should call this 2021, and this would really be 2019, where your other areas slow down, and because they slow down and when it goes up, they're drop down. But this is only about 25% of the marketplace. So 25% of the marketplace is not dropping down as rapidly as about 60% of the marketplace. Here's the same data set going back to 14. Now we're looking at the delta number of offers accepted. So we're taking the number of offers accepted for a given week, subtracting off the median number of offers accepted for the 2014 through 2021 timeframe. You can see 19 through 20, beginning of 20, we were selling a little bit less number of offers than you would expect. If you were having an exactly expected year, you'd be right on the black horizontal line. You're below, so it's blue in color, which is a little bit of a cooler marketplace. Then you had the COVID slowdown, which is pretty dramatic on this slide. We lost about 2,300 transactions every week on a 5-week moving average. So you lost, maybe a better way to say it is you were losing almost 475 listings every week for a short period of time. But once we were able to show properties, the buyers came right back. We exceeded the median. And then basically from about August the 1st of 2020, we were selling significantly more. And when I say significantly more, 500, 600, 700 homes more every week than you'd expect to be selling. And that continued to happen until, and this is the earliest time the market would have slowed down, and basically until around October, end of October, beginning of November of 2021, the number of offers accepted actually decreased more rapidly than you would have expected it. And at the time, I sort of remember thinking, it's because COVID's calming down a little bit. People are starting to take holidays. Holidays have a negative impact. If the holiday was more significant, more travel, more people were distracted, more people came out. And sure enough, in 2022, we came back up, and we weren't as hot as we were in 2021, but we were selling significantly more, and by significantly more, maybe 350 homes more a week than we typically do. And that dropped off dramatically right around April the 9th. And you can see it continued to drop off through July 1st and actually right around July the 4th. There's a lot of holidays in there, so that all made sense. And then we started to improve as people came back from the holidays. But now we're turning around and coming back down again. This line here is October the 1st. This corresponded with Labor Day. So instead of Labor Day getting behind us and the holiday impact going away, we're essentially having an impact coming back in as if there was a holiday going on. Here's the Delta DUI going back to 14 with annual vertical lines. Here's the number of offers accepted. So this is raw count. So you can see that 3 of the counties are very similar as far as the number of raw counts. They all follow the same pattern, and San Mateo County, of course, being the smallest county. And here's the data going back to 14. Here's the active inventory. So the purple line is the actual data. The black line is where you'd expect inventory to be based on the 8-year median. If you're having a shortage of inventory, you'd be down at the red line. If you're having a surplus, you'd be up here at the blue line. This little zigzag here is more the fact that the data is repeating. I'm going to get to a 10-year moving average, but I need 2 more years of data before I get there. So right now I'm just arbitrarily resetting it at the end of the year because that's the lowest inventory, but you can see there's quite a bit of a discontinuity. And I was expecting that. It's sort of surprising that it's not really noticeable in the median or in the 90 percentile. There's even if you sort of just blend that out in your mind, and depending on where you blend it out, really doesn't matter that much. So you started off the year hotter than normal, what less inventory. You started usually getting more and more inventory. We actually got to a little bit of a surplus of inventory, but then sellers started to realize the market wasn't what it had been, and sellers started delaying coming on the marketplace. So we actually have a little bit less inventory now. So we're having a shortage of offers accepted and a shortage of inventory, but the shortage of offers accepted is greater than the shortage of inventory, which is why DUI has increased and is somewhere in the 50-60 range now, depending on what you're looking at. Here's the same data going back to 14. Here is each of the counties, but it almost looks like there's only 3 lines, and that's because I could not get accurate data for Contra Costa County historically. So I arbitrarily set it equal to Alameda County, and you can see they're relatively similar compared to San Mateo County or Santa Clara County. Basically, the gray line represents an estimate for Contra Costa County and is actual data for Alameda County. And when I say actual, it's also not my data, so it's not a data point that I really like. The data points going forward are my data, and I have a lot more confidence in it. And part of my hesitation is a lot of people include pending transactions that are continue to show. And the reason it's garbage number is that property is really not available, and a lot of agents don't show those properties. And at the beginning part of the year, when you have very little inventory and the buyers come out before the sellers do, you actually have an increase in the pending continue to show offers while your available listings are continuing to drop. So you even get the wrong trend lines at a specific time of the year. Here's the same data going back to 2014. Now we're looking at the delta, and this horizontal black line should be down at the axis. It moved. I tried to correct it, and for some reason it wiped out my data. So I'm living with it a little bit off. It should be down right on the 0 axis right here. But now what you're doing is the same concept. You're taking the active listings and you're subtracting the number of median active listings for the same week. Here you have a shortage of inventory. A shortage of inventory tends to give you a hot marketplace. The shortage of inventory favors the seller. And then you can see that we started to climb compared to the normal year, and we really started to climb in April. We got up to a little bit more just for a short period of time here between the end, somewhere around June 25th through about middle of July. You had more inventory, and now we actually have a shortage of inventory. So we're in a position right now where we have a shortage of inventory compared to what you'd expect, as well as a shortage of offers. And the few times when you're above the actual horizontal line, it's sort of a cooling marketplace because you have a surplus of inventory. Same data set now going back to 2014, and here the line is correct. Now we're looking at the magnitude of overbidding, how much buyers are willing to pay over the seller's asking price over time going back to 2019, vertically marked on each quarter. What you do is you do the paired colors. So the outer 2.5 percentile down here. So 2.5% of the buyers are able to pick up a property at about 87% of the seller's asking price. 97% of the buyers are able to get it below 125%. Or another way to look at it is 2.5%. The top 2.5% pay more than 125% of the asking price. Then you have the paired gray lines, which are the 10 percentile and 90 percentile. So 80% of the homes or the transactions are sold between these 2 points. And what are those 2 points? You're probably somewhere around 93.5% up to something like 111, something like that. The next pair are the lime greens, and that's 25 and 75. So 50% of the homes are between these 2 numbers. And then the 2 dark green lines, the solid one is the median, which is what most people use for reference, way more accurate. And then the dotted 2021 is the average. So you can see that all price trend, all magnitude of overbidding trends very similarly. You can see that there is sort of a cycle here, a little bump up here right after COVID, where sellers were asking low prices and buyers were offering high prices. Then you can see the run up in 2021. The peak was right around April the 1st of 2022. Here's the same data going back to 2014 with the annual verticals. Here's the magnitude of overbidding minus the median overbidding. And so here you can see up until about October, well, mid-September of 2020, we were actually getting less overbidding than you'd expect. Then from the middle of October 2020 all the way through the middle of July of 2022, the amount of overbidding was more than you'd expect. Now, granted, it was slowing down much earlier. You can see the peak of this number was basically around mid-March. So mid-March of 2022 onward, even though the magnitude was at record high levels, it was slowing down compared to what it normally does. And then it basically fell off a cliff. You can see the little bit of improvement, a little bit of a plateau, and now you're going up. And so the overbidding is actually increasing right now. But remember, overbidding is delayed by about 5 weeks for the length of escrow to close. And again, the red bar up here, when it's thin like that, is just if you're above the black horizontal line, it's a hotter marketplace. If you're below the black horizontal line, it's a cooler marketplace. Same data set going back to 2014. Here's the magnitude of overbidding over time. So this is just the raw data. That's why I'm able to add in the color code. Anytime you're about 101.5% or above, it's a hot seller's marketplace. The black horizontal line is when sellers are getting exactly what they want, and that's on average what they're asking. And then the blue line down here is when anything below 99%, because if sellers are taking a 1% discount, even though that sounds pretty small, it's actually pretty unusual and it's a fairly cool marketplace. Same data set going back to 2014. Here's the delta overbidding for each of the counties. So now you can look at whatever county you're particularly interested. Contra Costa is way down here. Alameda County was doing the best for the most of the period of time. Santa Clara County was sort of second best, and San Mateo County was either the worst back here, but then you go further back and it was the best, and right now it's the third, and Contra Costa is the least. So if you're below the overbidding, you're getting less overbidding, you're a cool marketplace. If you're getting more overbidding than the delta, you're hot marketplace, to the pink narrow bar. And again, this is where you take the amount of overbidding for the given week and subtract the median overbidding for that same week for the 14 through 2021 time period. Now you're looking same data through 14. This is the magnitude of overbidding over time for each of the 4 counties. Just raw count, so you can see the trend, you can see the bump up every year, and then you can see the huge ride down that we took this year, 14 going back in time. Now we're going to look at overbidding for each week. We're looking at the 5-week data. We're looking at all 4 counties put into a blend. So you have the best week we ever had, which was just earlier this year, April 12th, 2022. The blended data of San Mateo and Santa Clara County single-family homes, that best week was a little bit earlier. That was March 26th. Contra Costa County pulled it back mostly, in Alameda a little bit. But when you look at all 4 counties single-family homes, because we're not doing condos, I separated them. We're focused on single-family homes on this data set. The best week we ever had was April 12th of this year. The WIR stayed the same at 11/30 of 2001. That was the bottom after 9/11. The purple is October 4th, 2022. That's the most current data that I have the countywide data for. We'll get into some stuff that's as of Friday night, midnight, but that's only blended data. So the purple line is the current year, October 4th, 2022. And the green box is the dotted line here, which is a year ago, October 4th, 2021. And the reason they match up exactly is for this data and all my stat data for the 4 counties, I've defined a statistics year of March 1st for 364 days. I start March 1st and I go back 5 weeks and then move forward. And at the end of the time frame, you're typically going to be February 20th is the week, and then you would have the 27th. Then every week you move off, and how do you compare data? So I drop leap year day and I drop the 28th of February every year, and I jump forward to March 1st and I start over again. We have fiscal years. So this is a statistical year that starts on March the 1st and resets on March the 1st of every year. When you're comparing October 4th, you're comparing October 4th and the 5 weeks before that. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know and I'll try to explain it again next week. So now this is minus 11 months, 10 months, and you can see the lines are going up. So I have the red arrow pointing upwards. We jumped way up, up again, and now it's sort of staying at the same level. So both lines, and now it's coming down, went to the blue line, and now it's way down to here, boom, and you can see it marching down. That's why the blue line only. They're getting closer together, but they're still marching down. Now you're real recent. Now we're going to probably jump, and next one we'll probably do the balanced marketplace, because you can see that they're just bouncing right here, very little movement. The color code also only goes part way down. It goes to 100 percentile, because you read whether you're in a hot marketplace or a cold marketplace by where the data leaves and goes vertically above the horizontal line. So right now that's somewhere right around in here. And so you're in a balanced marketplace. You can see the blue line here left right at the tail end of the hot marketplace. And if you go back any further, then it's going to be a hot marketplace. And I am noticing this block is off a little bit. It should stop on this vertical line of 50 percentile. And this blue one doesn't come out far enough, because it should come out to 33%. I did not catch that earlier, so I apologize. Here's the frequency of overbidding, and we're going to start with the blue line. It's bolder, so that's what we're discussing. This is the number of sellers, the percent of sellers getting more than their asking price, and you can see it's pretty respectable here at 50%. Got all the way up to almost 90% of the sellers were getting more than their asking price. Now you can see it's come down, and we're now down at under 45% of the sellers are getting more than their asking price. The next data slide is the sellers that are getting less than their asking price, and so you can see it got way down here in the single digit range, probably around 5%. Then now it's up around 47%. The number of sellers getting less than their asking price, a larger number than those getting over their asking price on the blue line. And now I'm talking about the gray line. So it's the boldest line, or the thickest line. And you can see it runs about 10%. And those are the sellers that are getting exactly their asking price. Here's all three lines for you, with the blue line being the boldest because it's the most significant. It's what percentage of the sellers are getting more than their asking price. This data goes back to 19 and it's quarterly data on the vertical lines. This goes back to 14 and it's annual data. I'm trying to make my graphs more consistent. Here's the frequency of overbidding. Anything above 50% is considered to be a red hot seller's marketplace by me. Anything below 33% is considered to be an ice cold buyer's marketplace. In between, in the white area, is a balanced marketplace. That's where all four counties are right now. Alameda County is doing the best at basically 50%. Contra Costa County is doing the worst. Santa Clara in the blue and San Mateo County in the yellow are very similar, with about 43% of the sellers getting more than their asking price. Here's the same data going back to 2014. Here's looking at the delta. This is where I take the overbid and I subtract off the median. So what's the frequency of overbidding compared to the median for the 14 through 2021 periods? So you can see the most overbidding we had was earlier this year. You can see that it was all declining before April the 1st. You know, depending on which data point you probably do, the peak was probably back here somewhere right about the middle of February. So the frequency of overbidding started to drop first. And again, blue down here, worse, red up top, hotter marketplace. Here is sold price, same concept, paired data, 2.5 percentile, 97.5 percentile. And I do that for data. One data point would throw off my max or my min. For example, the person that incorrectly reported the sale at $510 million instead of $510,000 would have really impacted it has almost no impact at all on my 2.5 percentiles, and that's why I'm doing them. And then the gray lines are the 10 and 90 percentile, so 80% of the homes are between these two lines. The green paired lines are 25 percentile and 75, so 50% of the homes are between these two. The solid dark green is the median, and the dotted green is the average. That goes back to 19 with quarterly vertical lines, and this goes back to 14 with annual vertical lines. Here's the median sold price for all 4 counties, and I've added in the horizontal lines that we'll discuss. Basically, get some idea where you're back to price-wise, depending on which county you want to focus on. San Mateo goes back the furthest. The time at which San Mateo County reached its current peak was way back here in about June of 2019. Santa Clara County didn't reach its current peak for the first time until about May 15th of 2021. Alameda County was around April 15th. Contra Costa County was back here on basically April 1st, 2021. Here's the same data going back to 14. Here is just the raw count. This is the 4 counties, single family homes, condos, and townhouses. This is through last night, midnight. We've only had 594 offers accepted, less than 600. If you look up here, you had 1 year at 953, and then after that, it was 1,000 and 1,100. And here's a couple in the high thousands, so several in the high thousands. So if you say that your normal is somewhere around 1,075 homes, and now you're only selling 575 homes, you've lost 500 homes. You've lost almost half your volume, and that's the real takeaway. Just look down at the ranking. You can see that we're basically the second worst year or the worst year since beginning of May, and that was after we were the second best year for the beginning part of the year. So the change is very dramatic. And I'm only referencing the 10 years, but I actually have 13 years on the graph, and each one of these would have become the 13th or the 12th worst. Now we're looking at blended data, which is San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, single family homes, condos, and townhouses, 5 weeks worth of data. And I'm tending to get rid of this, but I'm wrestling. So if you like seeing the heat maps, let me know, because from here on is slides that I'm thinking of deleting. So this is as of midnight last night. The hotter the color, the redder the map is. So you can see Santa Clara County, the bulk of it is still in a seller's marketplace right now. Yes, it's slowing down, but that's pretty impressive. San Mateo County is mostly in a balanced marketplace. The expensive areas in San Mateo County are in a buyer's marketplace. Here's the DUI over time. May 7th is the first week that I have up here. This was already after it cooled off some. You can see that somewhere right around July the 30th was probably the palest this line has gotten. You can see that it got redder again and probably got its reddest right around September the 17th. And now it's getting paler again on October the 8th. Condos are down here at the bottom for both counties. Single family homes are at the top. You can see that consistently the expensive areas in San Mateo County are doing the least well. Here's the magnitude of overbidding. The only area significantly below 100% is the expensive areas in San Mateo County at 97%. Everybody else has almost no color. South County apparently is a little bit of a blue color. You can see the box here. And then actually Cupertino Sunnyvale, I can see it here, is a little bit shade of red, as well as San Mateo County North. So up here is a little bit red, and right through Cupertino area is a little bit of red. 99 through 101.5 has no color. Above 101.5 is a little shade of red. Below 99 it becomes blue. It becomes solid blue at 95. So you can see that the solid blue happens way faster than the solid red, about 3 times as fast, because from 101.5 to 117.5 is 15. Here is only 4%, so it's actually 4 times faster. And that's just because the resistance of a seller going down in price. Here's the frequency of overbidding. You can see South County is clearly about 1 in 4 sellers getting more than their asking price. Same with the expensive areas in San Mateo County. The area doing least well in that category is the coast, with only 1 out of 5 sellers getting more than their asking price. The area doing best is Foster City, with 61.5% of the sellers getting more than their asking price, followed by the North San Mateo County area with 54%. Here's the price. So here color has nothing to do with market conditions. It's simply, if it's white in color, it's the median price. If it's blue in color, it's below the median price. If it's red in color, it's above the median price. The actual numbers are over here. The middle number is the median. The number to the left is the 10 percentile, the least expensive homes in that area. And the number to the right is the most expensive homes in that area. Here you can see the different micro market areas, single family homes in Santa Clara County, single family homes in San Mateo, Santa Clara County condos, San Mateo County condos. And then you can see what kind of conditions you are, days on sold inventory, how competitive is it? What's the frequent magnitude and frequency of overbidding in each area? And then finally, what is the price range? Where if you're a consumer, you're more likely to start at this end and go, I'm in a price range of $1.5 million. Where can I find a house? And then you can come up here and find out what areas. Because if you're looking for with $1.5 million budget and you're only looking in the San Mateo expensive areas where only 10% of the homes sell for less than 2.7%, you're going to be spending a lot of time looking and probably will not be successful unless you find maybe a complete teardown, and that probably doesn't work with a budget of $1.5 million anyway. Ideally, you want to be buying in an area where the median price are a little bit below for the best investment perspective, but there's a lot of things that go into where we choose to live. Here is a recap of this week versus last week. When it's red, it would tend to indicate a hot marketplace. So in Santa Clara County single family homes, we only have 73% of the inventory we'd expect to have. So that's clearly a shortage and would tend to be a hot seller's marketplace. And San Mateo County's got 10% surplus. That's sort of a balanced marketplace. Condos in Santa Clara County, a little bit of a surplus, balanced conditions. And the Bay Cities with a huge surplus, but that's a little bit misleading because the number of units that have been built since 2000 in Redwood City, they tend to be higher density, lower priced, and more of them, which gives you more listings now that those homes are being resold. DUI is a little bit more easier to understand. Anywhere from 40 to 80 is the balanced marketplace. Everybody's in a balanced marketplace, with the Bay Cities being the least demand at 62 days of unsold inventory. So it would take 62 days to sell everything out in San Mateo County condos versus Santa Clara County single family homes that would sell out in only 44 days. Here's your overbidding, basically right at 100%. The two counties and two types of properties. Frequency of overbidding right around 45%. The appreciation is over the entire calendar year of 2020. Here's the peak for 2022, the peak for 2021, and in every county we're below both of those peaks. Bay Cities are actually down 0.5% from the 2020 pricing. And again, that's probably not property values because of those large number of lower price condos that are coming on the marketplace now on the resale market. You're anywhere from 7% to 20%, which would sound good for 2 years, but not when you realize you were at 44% just a few weeks back. And if I say a few weeks ago, the peak pricing was probably the middle of May. We're not even to the middle of October, so it's less than 5 weeks. And that's going to be roughly, less than about 20 weeks ago. So now we're looking at the appreciation of each of the micro market areas. The bold on the left is October 8th, which is basically today. It's through midnight last night, going back for 5 weeks. So you can see the price for all of Santa Clara County is up 19%, but you can see it was up 43%. South County is at 33%. It was at 50.6%. So you can see the drop downs are pretty significant. San Mateo County as a whole is now at 7% above 2020 pricing, and it was at 38% above just earlier this year. So that's a pretty dramatic drop. You can pick whatever micro market area you want, single family on top, condos and townhouses on the bottom. And then this is Santa Clara County single family homes only, pretty much comparing September data. We're close enough to October the 6th that I'm doing it on October the 8th and just doing a direct comparison. The inventory we have is 971. Here's what we've had. So we have more than 2 years. We have had less than 2 years out of the last few years. You can see 17 was a huge shortage of only 700 homes. But if you go back in time, you can see that we had quite a bit more inventory. Sales per day, that's the real story. Only 22 homes per day we're selling. We've never had a number that low before, except all the way back here in 7. What was happening in 7? That was the mortgage meltdown when we only had 19 homes per day selling. It's not a lot of activity. The speed is still reasonably strong because, compare it. Here you had 251 days of inventory. Here you only have 44. 44 days on inventory is not bad. So we sort of have this bizarreness of very fast-paced marketplace but not much actual buying activity. And the real estate industry, title industry, it's mostly the seller that depends on the sale price. So the volume is way down. So you're going to start seeing layoffs in mortgage origination, title industry, in all the affiliate trades. Coming down to sold price, you're at 100%. You can see that that's a relatively low number. You can see almost all the years you're above 100%. You have to get back here to 10 in order to have the first year below 100%, or actually it's 11 with 99%. And we're still above 100 currently. We're at 100.3%. 41% of the sellers getting more than their asking price. Again, that's pretty low. You get back to 11 and you had fewer number of sellers. 11 was coming out of the 2007, 2008 meltdowns that we had. The price, a million, 1.640. A year ago, we were at 1.600. So we're only up 40,000 over a year ago. If you go back 2 years, you're up 200,000 and you're looking good. You're up almost $250,000. Number of transactions that are closing, 882. This number is not so bad compared to the number of offers accepted. 882, we beat out 2 years in the last 5, but number of offers, we're dead last. If you look at the number of offers, which is where we're going, the only year that was worse was back here in 2007. If you look at the number of closings, you got 1, 2, well, you only have 2 years, 3 years that were lower. With that, if you get on early Saturday morning, you'll see this slide. Don't worry about it. I'll be joining shortly. Here are any questions that we have. We've already gone over these URLs once after the summary, and I'd really appreciate feedback. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What graphs do you like? What graphs don't you like? Can I get rid of the graphs at the end? Appreciate any and all feedback. Any questions for me? Not seeing anyone unmute themselves. I will call it a week and see everybody next week. Take care. Bye for now.